So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lluis Guerrero, and I was responsible for WIPI 25. So, as Gemma already mentioned, we did a lot of activities within the socioeconomic work package, but I'm going to focus mainly on the new product development. Obviously, we have more information and more things, but this is what I'm going to explain to you. But first, I would like to give you some figures just to put you in the right scenario. That I think is important to have this in mind when looking at the results. The first important thing is that, as you all know, that aquaculture supply approximately 50% of the global fish that we consume. This is an important figure. We have to say also that aquaculture is still far from its full potential. In the case of Europe, the European aquaculture only represents about 20% of the total fish production. So there is still some room for growing in the European market. And another important issue is that European consumers perceive farm fish as being of lower quality in general than wild fish. In fact, if you can, okay. If you look at here, you can see that only 8% of European consumers prefer farm fish compared to 34% for wild fish. So there is a big differences between these two figures. For instance, here we have some results that from a study that we did in Spain in 2012. And in the case of Spain, this percentage of consumers preferring farm fish was 20%. And also one important thing is that even though this percentage is quite low, we have to take into account that the importance that the obtaining method has on the consumer mind is not so important as, for instance, the country of origin. I mean, the importance for Spanish consumers of the country of origin is much more important than the obtaining method. I mean, if the fish is coming from wild or from farm. So it's important, but it's not so important. These results are not exactly the same, but we can find similar results in all the European countries. So this is an example for Spain, but obviously it's almost the same for all the countries. Well, probably one of the reasons, because we have this relatively low market share of aquaculture within Europe, is because of the lack of variety. I mean, consumers normally don't have different choices when they go to the supermarket, different fish product choices when they go to the supermarket. So we know that consumers like variety. They want to have as much variety as possible on the supermarket. And this was one of the ideas, because we decided to apply this risky strategy, because you know that diversification is one of the most risky strategies that we can find in marketing, because everything is new product, new species, everything is new. So the risk is higher than using other marketing strategies. And well, if you look at this picture, I think it gives a good idea of what we have on the market. Obviously, I think it's very easy to know which of these pictures belongs to meat products, which one belongs to fish products. That's the real situation on the supermarket. But even though of this situation, I have to say that, in fact, we have a lot of different examples of successful fish products on the market. So the question is, why don't we have more fish products on the market? So because we have all the ingredients that we need to have successful products on the market, but at the end it's not the real situation. Maybe because the terrestrial animals have a long history behind, and the aquaculture is something new for consumers. We don't know, but the situation is that one. I would like to focus in this picture, but I think that there are some interesting things here that we have to discuss. The first one is the variety. As I told you, consumers want to have variety on the supermarket, and if we compare the different species that we have for terrestrial animals with the different species that we have for fish, obviously we should have more variety in the fish products than on the meat products, but it's not the case. So I think that we have still some room for growing in this side. And another important issue that I want to comment is this one, because we are very proud of our feed conversion that we have in fish compared with meat. But this seems to be an advantage for some consumers. It's not so clear, because when I present these results to them, these figures, they always made me the same question. And the question is, okay, if the conversion is higher, why the fish is more expensive than the chicken, for instance? So for them, this something that is difficult to understand. So probably communication is something that we have to think about, how to communicate the price differences when comparing fish with meat, because consumers cannot understand this difference, especially when they see these figures. So I think that's something important to have in mind. And also, another important aspect, obviously, is traceability, because as Gemma already said, the country of origin is one of the most important decision factors for consumers. So I think that is something that we have to exploit appropriately. Okay, now focusing on the new product development, we had 4 different objectives in this WP. The first one was to develop new product concepts from the selected species, and by incorporating both the consumer and expert input, then we have to select these product ideas to develop the physical new products, and then obviously to monitor the quality of this product that we try to develop, and finally to make the technical assessment of these products. Okay, theoretically, the design or the development of new products is something quite simple, so we don't have to make a big, complex things. We only need a few ingredients. We only need to have the raw material. We need to know the characteristics of the raw material. Then, obviously, we have to have some ideas to work with this raw material, and then obviously we have to check the feasibility of these new products that we are trying to develop. I'm going to focus in each of these points, because it's what we did in our WP. The first thing that we did, obviously, was the characterization of the raw material. We focus on the sensory properties and the physical-chemical properties, and also on somatic properties of this species, because as you can imagine, these properties are very important in order to decide which ideas can be applied to which species. So it's important to know all the characteristics of the different animals. In this case, we work with the 5 species that Gemma already commented, and we have animals from different seasons, from different origins, from different feed, and also from different sizes, in order to cover as much as possible the variability that we had on the market, not in the market, but at the production level. And here you can see a summary of the results regarding the characteristics of these animals. And as you can see, we were able to discriminate quite in an important way between the 5 species that we analyzed. And I have to say that the most important differences between these species were based on the sensory properties. So it seems that sensory properties are a key point regarding the differences between the different species. So this is important from a technical point of view, but also from a consumer point of view. Okay, once we have this raw material characterization, the next step that we did was to generate and to evaluate the different ideas. We started by performing some focus group. In total, we did 10 different focus groups in 5 countries. So this was 2 focus groups per country. And we also obtained the input from external experts by means of different interviews. And at the end, we obtained a total of 43 different ideas. And obviously, it would be nice to to be able to develop all the 43 products, but obviously this was not possible. So for this reason, we have to evaluate these different ideas and to select those that were theoretically more promising. And for this reason, we asked some internal experts within our WIPI, and also we asked again these external experts. And based on the evaluation that these experts did for these 43 ideas, and also based on the raw material characteristics, finally we decided to focus to develop only 12 different new products, 3 for each of the 4 species that we were working with. And probably one of the most innovative or the most interesting approach that we did in our research was to focus on co-creation processes. So we try to involve consumers and experts in all the different steps of the new product development. I think that this is something that is quite new. And in fact, we were able to publish something about this approach. So I think that is something new, or at least we think so. And we did this activity in 3 different steps. In the first step, it was a traditional focus groups, nothing special there. Then we tried to capture the more, let's say, projective part of the consumer behavior. For instance, we use techniques such as word association or role playing or something like that. And finally, we apply different techniques to create these new ideas. One of them was this empathy map. That is a very, very nice technique. I don't have the time to explain to you all these steps, but if you want to have more information, obviously you can always look at the original paper. And here is more or less the result that we obtained. I tried to put in just one slide all the evaluation of these 43 ideas that you can see. Each of these points and number represent one of the 43 ideas that we had. Here we have in red the different parameters that we assess for each of these 43 ideas. And then we have here in green the 6 products that we selected for the consumer test. As Rocío already explained, we couldn't do this for all the products, so for the reason we have to select some of them. And we select, if you can see, we have one product here, one here, another here, and 2 more here. We try to cover more or less all the space of the different products with the different characteristics in order to have a broad picture of the variability that we had. And we also tried to select products based on the degree of processing, because we wanted to have products with a high degree of processing, with mid degree of processing, and also with low degree of processing. Sorry? Yeah, no, sorry. This is a statistical manipulation. This is a principal component analysis. So you don't have to pay attention to the axis. The axis means nothing. The axis is a combination of yeah. It's one space. It's a combination of different variables. So we don't have to pay attention to that. It's just to be able to project all the information in just 2 dimensions to be easier to understand. Yeah, but this is something more complex. It's a mathematical manipulation of the data set. Okay. Okay. So these are the 12 ideas that we decided to work with. The products that we, in fact, the products that we develop, and those marked in bold letters are the products that we use for the consumer test. So we didn't test taste the 12 products. We only taste 6 of them. Okay, obviously this process that I say that is quite simple is not simple at all, because as you can imagine, first we have to produce this product, then we have to test it, and then we have to optimize them, then we have to taste it again, and then again to optimize until we have the final product that we consider that was okay, and this was the product that we used for the consumer test. So in this optimization process, we all the time had to do some physicochemical analysis and also the nutritional analysis. We also test the microbiological quality of the different products. We also test the shelf life, obviously, and the sensory properties, in this case mainly with trained assessors, but we also did some consumer tests, but this was done in WIPI 29, no, not in WIPI 28, so for the reason I'm not going to focus on that. And we also checked the extrinsic properties of these products, such as the origin, the nutritional claims, the price, etc. And this information was also obtained from WIPI 2029, not WIPI 28. So here you can see some pictures that you already saw in previous presentation. Here this is the case for the different frozen fish fillets with different recipes. Here you have the original product, and here you have different recipes. This is with tomato sauce, and this is with orange sauce, this is with tomato, this is with some vegetables, 4 cheeses, and this is with yogurt. There are some examples of the products that we develop. You already saw this wonderful picture. You can see the eye is a slice of a black olive, just to make the product more appealing for children. And here you can see the pâté, the pikeperch, made from pikeperch. Sorry, Pascal. But you know that even this presentation was proposed by consumers. So I mean, it was not our idea. It was an idea coming from consumers. Consumers wanted to have this kind of product, probably because it's more convenient to use it and to put it on the bread, or I don't know. Here you have also for some of the products for both pikeperch and amberjack. In this case, was a tartare, a very nice product as well, with different recipes. And also the fish fillets in olive oil from grey mullet that we didn't have them from. Yes, there was, but it disappeared. Yeah, okay, because I didn't see them. Okay. Yeah, okay. Next time. Okay, and now to finish, I just want to show you some of the things that I think that we have still to work with, because there are some issues that have not been solved during these 5 years of research in the project. One important, in my opinion, is that probably we should focus more on the species themselves than on the products, because all the tests that we did were oriented towards the product, but not towards the species. And I think that probably we should give more importance, more relevance to the species themselves, because I think that probably the picture of the results could have been somewhat something different, I think. Another important issue is the gap that we detected between product expectations and the actual acceptance. So in some cases, the expectations were higher than the blind acceptability for the product, and in some cases it was the opposite. So this means that there is something happening with the different products, because depending on the product, expectations were very high, and depending on the product, the expectations were lower. So it's something that we have to work with. Also, I think that an important issue is to involve the distribution in a real market test, because we did a market test, but it was an online market test. So at the end, this is a kind of simulation, but it's not a real situation. So probably, if we decide to do it again, we should try to involve some distributor in order to have a supermarket to test all the products that we develop. Obviously, it's important to focus as well in develop appropriate communication strategies. For instance, what I explained to you about the price. That's important that consumers have to understand that is not the conversion, the feed conversion, the only factor influencing the price, but there are something else there. But consumers have to understand this. And also about the sustainability, I mean, because it's linked to the food origin, that is very, very important for consumers. And also, something important that we didn't take into account was non-fish consumers, because I think that this is a very, very important segment for us, because these non-fish consumers are probably the potential users of new fish products. And at this moment in the European Union, obviously there are some differences depending on the country. In fact, there are huge differences depending on the country. But for instance, you can see that in Hungary, the number of people who never eat fish is about 40%. So I think here you can see the mean value for the Central European countries, and you can see that is about 25%. So I think that is a very, very important market. So probably we should try to focus more on these people, not in actual consumers of fish, because obviously we don't have to tell them anything new, because they already eat fish. But I think that we should focus more on that. And also it's important to have in mind that fish products could overcome some of the barriers for fish consumers. These are the main barriers that have been described for fish consumption: price, contamination risk, environmental risk, smell, bones, unavailability, bad taste and preparation difficulties, this is convenience, and difficulties in evaluation the quality. And all these aspects can be solved by means of the development of new fish products. So we can overcome these barriers for fish consumption. So I think that's something that we also should explore, because I think it's very important. And this is my last slide, and I would like to show you something that even for those people who like fish and eat fish, well, I was quite surprised when I observed these results, because these are the motives for consuming fish. And I expected to be the sensory properties and the taste of the product to be the most important parameter, but it is not. So the most important parameter, or the key driver for consumers, for fish consumers, is wellness and health. And this is a big problem. This is a big problem because in this area we have a lot of potential products that can be competitors with fish. I mean, what we have to try to obtain is to increase the importance of hedonic aspects of fish consumption, and try to diminish this, because this is not good for the fish sector, because we cannot compete with other products based on wellness and health. But obviously we can compete with because this is an intrinsic characteristic of the fish. So this is important, but this is not important, and I think that's something that we have to think about as well. Well, and finally, I would like to thank, obviously, all this work has been done in collaboration with a big and fantastic team of people that have been collaborating with all together during these 5 years. Here you have some pictures of some of our meetings. This one was in your house, and this one was in Barcelona. And well, here you can see the names of all the people that were involved in this WIPI, and also in the socio-economic WIPI. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luis. Can you put back the last slide? I would think that the fact that wellness and health is such an important motive, that we do have an advantage in fish production versus animal production.
Yeah, but
no?
Yeah, but you are thinking in a short period of time, because probably in I don't know, but probably in 5 more years you will have, I don't know, insects. And probably insects.
You mean that it will decrease our the value of fish?
Yeah, I mean if you focus your strategy to promote the consumption of fish, if you focus on wellness and health, and then there is a new source of protein that also have these characteristics, they will compete with your product. But if you focus your strategy in the hedonic, I mean on the sensory properties of the fish, then even you use algae, even you use, I don't know, insects or whatever, you will never compete with fish, because people will consume fish because of the sensory properties. So, I mean, this is very specific of fish, but this characteristic is shared with many products.
Yeah.
So this is something that, this is something that, in my opinion, is a little bit risky to focus too much on these health and on wellness aspects. But obviously, this is my opinion. But
okay, yes, Patrick, Pascal, you're both the same.
Yes, Lluis, I disagree to some extent with your last comment. Insect, for example, is very poor in long-chain fatty acid, and it's quite difficult to increase it. Yeah,
but probably we can change this.
Yeah.
And you know, the idea is that if we want to promote a product, we have to try we have to find something that is totally different from the rest of the products, because like this you don't have competitors for your product. Yeah. You don't have competition for. But if you have something that can be shared with other products, then you are open the door for other products to enter and to compete with your product. So,
but I see more competition with the vegetarian and vegan tendency.
Yeah.
Just to avoid eating animals at all.
This is another. Yeah, this is
the speciesism in general.
Yeah, this is another problem. Yeah.
This is the same as when you compare French wine with Spanish wine. Spanish always win.
Obviously, Spanish wine is better. Yeah. At least it's cheaper.
Well, I was just wondering if a product has both things. Where does it come in the figure? And maybe people agree with me. I think fish has both. It has really good taste and really good health and well-being, which is great, no?
Yes. Well, I didn't explain this graph too much because I don't have the time to do it. But obviously, if you can see, these percentages are higher than 100% because this percentage were obtained as the addition of different aspects. So for this reason, we can have values until, I think in this case, it's until 300%, I think. And here is maybe 300 as well. I don't remember. So obviously we cannot compare the number itself, but we have to compare in a qualitative way. So here you don't have the full information, but I can tell you that this is much more important for consumers than this aspect. Both are important. And also the size of this circle is the convenience of the product. So there are a lot of information here, but I didn't explain everything to you because obviously I don't have the time. But my reflection is, my thought is that I think it's dangerous to focus too much on the health issues related with fish. I think this is not good for the sector. I think this is my personal opinion.
Continuing with what Patrick said, I think that fish products concerning wellness and health claims should focus on the unique properties they have, such as the long-chain fatty acid content, which cannot be easily fulfilled by other types of products. And innovation should be considered carefully, I think, when related to food products, because as you pointed out, in many countries, people never consume fish products. Do you think that they will really turn to innovative products like insects if they don't eat fish? I can't imagine they'll be eating crickets in the next 5 years. So I think there has more work to be done on promoting fish products and not being so worried about other kinds of food items that also will have health claims, but probably would be different claims. And these wellness and health claims are really good drivers for consumers. So I think more work can be done, more promotion can be done, and getting good results for fish products.
Yeah, but you know that the funny thing, I don't know if funny or not, but maybe it's not funny at all, but is that people that normally are worried about wellness and healthiness of the fish products, they have no idea about something like the fatty acid composition. So they only have the idea that, okay, this is good for health and nothing else. And then they are going to buy some pills of omega-3. Even they are eating fish because they think, okay, fish is good, but in addition, I'm going to eat some omega-3, additional omega-3. So it's something.
It's a matter of education. Then
yeah.
We agree on that.
Yeah.
I fully will support you with your remarks, because if you follow the doctors telling you have to eat fish, you have to eat amounts of fish to get the effect at the end. So we are happy with the promotion of the doctors, but we should focus, if we want to do good marketing, more on your left-hand side.
Yeah.
And there we can keep up. We can say, look, eating fish means something different than eating meat. And I think this is a social component which is very interesting for us in the future. And this is a very good picture. If you maybe can give a little bit more insight for this and how it has been produced would be fine. But it's a very good picture. Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Here, I think that here we have a history behind, but here we have nothing. We have the story. Yeah, we have a history here. Yeah, we have something to tell. We have something to explain here to the consumer, but here we have nothing. Because we have a lot of products in this category, but not in this one. So.
Okay, thank you, Luis. Okay, when you talked about the costs, you placed a question on how to answer your friends or colleagues when they ask if fish is so efficient that we tend to say that fish are extremely efficient converters of feed. How can it be that it's more expensive than meat per kilo? I know, beef is more expensive than farmed fish. Pork is so. Chicken is cheaper. Okay, but the difference is the ex-farm cost of chicken feed is 90%, 80-something, 90% of the added costs. In our fish, it's 45, 50%, and that makes a huge difference. Of course, our other costs, not so big as feed, but other costs are, feed is more expensive, first place, our feed for fish, but juveniles are expensive because of the biology of our fish. The technology of working in the water is also more expensive than working on land, and labor associated to both things, producing juveniles and technology, but also administrative costs are very much more expensive for aquaculture, which we are in public domain waters. So that just as an answer for that question. And nevertheless, I don't think it's a good idea to compare things by weight or by cost of weight. If I have an automobile and it's a Seat, the kilo of Seat is cheaper than the kilo of a Mercedes. But of course, we are comparing different things. And this brings us to this last discussion. It's not only the price of comparing things, but the values that you get. So I'm not going to go into the debate if it's because hedonistic or it should go to the health properties. But in both cases, fish rank higher than terrestrial protein, animal protein.
But I think that I agree with you, and I know the answer. But the problem is not what we think; is the problem is what consumers think, because they have to buy a product.
I understand. But as you place a question, I responded.
Normally I inform consumers when they ask me, and I tell you exactly the same.
So my children are very well aware of the differences on this.
Yeah, but the problem is how to inform consumers about that, because they only see the price and they don't have no idea what is behind. And they see the price and say, okay, if the conversion is higher, why is more expensive? So.
But at the end, this means, what I've explained right now, is there is a huge possibility of gaining advantage through innovation in technology, not so much in feeding. Feeding, yes, but our fish are very good converting, but in technologies, in everything that's creating costs, but it's much more expensive in fish than in terrestrial animals. That's where we want to go. Sure. Okay.
Okay, I think a very short one because we need to move on.
In your questionnaire or just in your interviews, you never discuss about the presence or absence, in fact, in aquaculture products of the contaminants, comparing with the fishery product that can be contaminated with heavy metals and etc.
Yeah. And consumers normally perceive farm fish as a more controlled and obviously with less contaminants than wild fish. Yeah, in the beliefs, yeah. No? Yeah, but I'm not talking about antibiotics. I'm talking about contaminants.
Yeah, but antibiotics is also contaminant.
Obviously, antibiotics and hormones are are perceived as having a higher quantity the farm fish than the wild fish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this stimulating and challenging presentation. Okay, thank you, Luis. So the next presentation